Hey guys, in this video I'm going to show you a very simple way to go out and catch a whole bunch of steelhead. It's my favorite technique, and yes, anybody can do this. There's actually two routes you can go with your rod selection. You could go with the noodle rod that's a little more specific to fishing in the creeks for steelhead. This is a 9-footer I use. A noodle rod serves a couple purposes. One, it gives you a lot of length so you can keep your line high above the water so it doesn't get caught up in the water on the drift. So your drift is a lot more natural. The other advantage to a noodle rod is that it's very flexible. These fish like to run real quick, so it gives you a little more flexibility when they run so you don't break your line. The downside is it's not a universal rod. So the other option you have with the rod is to go with something like this. It's a 13 fishing 7.5 medium light action rod. It's a universal rod. You can use this for all different types of fishing, and it definitely will work in the stream for you.
Got one. See?
It's got some advantages over the noodle rod, like when you're fishing in Erie on some of these smaller creeks, there's a lot of branches to deal with in your back cast. So having a shorter rod is a little easier to handle in these situations. No matter what one you choose, you should be able to get a steelhead on the bank. This technique is as basic as it gets. You don't need to overthink this. We're going to use egg sacs. We're going to hook them up on a wide gap hook that's about a number 8. We're going to go with a 1/16 ounce split shot. If the current's a little faster where you're fishing, you might want to think about putting another one on there or a bigger one. And then just a float. I like this simple float because it's super easy to adjust. In general, you want to figure out about how deep you're fishing and set your bobber to that depth so that the egg sac's just naturally drifting along the bottom. The biggest key to this technique is to be natural. You don't want to cast out there and be reeling in your line over the fish. None of that. You just want to have a good cast so that it's going to drift down over the pocket of fish, and you don't move your line at all. Just let the current do all the work. Your position in the creek is important because you'd like to be in a position where you can cast upstream to the fish and just let the current do the work and naturally drift it down. I can't emphasize natural enough. It's important when the water is this clear to go with a very light line. I prefer using a 4-pound test suffix line. These fish can be real line shy, so you don't want anything bigger than a 4-pound test in clear conditions. If the water is a little bit muddier, I might go up to 6, but really that's all you need as long as you fight the fish and don't horse them. Staying along the lines of keeping it simple, you can't go wrong with that color. It's natural. So let me show you how to hook this up. I like to take the hook and the egg sac, the part that's tied, I like to put it on the bottom and just barely get some of that netting. And you don't want to pop the eggs when you do it. And just go like that, so that way your hook is all exposed. Here's a few things that you might want to get before you head to the stream. So if you're going to be doing this a lot, it's not a bad idea to invest in a good pair of waders. I like using a stocking foot type wader. You buy the waders and the boots separately. Some guys like to go with the neoprene wader when it's colder in the winter. Those neoprene waders are a lot better for keeping you warm. So if you just want to come out and give this a try, a simple pair of some knee-high rubber boots would work. You don't have to necessarily go trekking through the creek to find these fish. One of the cool things about this fishing is you don't need a bunch of gear. I can literally fit everything I need into my pockets. But if you want to have a couple other things that will make your life easier, get yourself a good pair of polarized sunglasses. You want to be able to see these fish and know that you're fishing over them. Another thing that's really handy is a good net. These fish are slimy, hard to pick up. It is possible to beach them, but it's easier if you got a net.
He's in the net! He's in the net!
One last thing that you might want to get is a simple pair of forceps. It gets you to unhook your fish, take a quick picture, get them back in the water quicker. Other than that, a few extra hooks, sinkers, and bobbers, and you're good to go. The best time to do this is between September and March. In September, these fish start running up the streams to spawn, and they'll be up here all the way through March. When you're doing this, you're targeting steelhead, but there's always a possibility that you can find a trophy brown. One last thing you might want to do before you head to the stream is check with the middleman. Kirk over at East End Angler keeps tabs on all the streams. He has the best homemade egg sacs around, and he will definitely shoot you straight. Which reminds me, If you like eating fish, you can take your catch over to Kirk at East End Angler and he will trade you a freshly smoked steelhead for your catch.
Oh, does that look good or what?
And let me tell you, it is something you need to try. He's got a bunch of different flavors and they are all delicious. It's the best smoked fish I ever had. What's cool about Erie is that there are tons of streams to fish in from the Ohio line to the New York line, and they all hold a lot of fish. Just let me remind you that Erie's kind of famous for our steelhead fishing. It can be busy out on the streams, so just use proper etiquette and always leave the streams the way you found them. And if you're lucky, you'll find a spot just like this one, where there's nobody around. As you can see, steelhead fishing can be a lot of fun. I hope this video inspires you to come out and give it a try. If you haven't already, please subscribe and hit the notification bell. For your convenience, we put links to most of the products used in our video in the description below. See you next time.